The Grey Hat Beard podcast.
Hello and welcome to show 33, part 1 of Grey Hat Beard, the modern workplace podcast, where we talk about all things Microsoft 365. I'm the Grey of Grey Hat Beard. My name's Kevin McDonnell. I'm a solutions architect at CPS. And Al, you have some news for us, I believe.
I do. I'm the Hat. I am still the Hat, but I'm now a modern work and security architect at Microsoft. No longer at CPS and no longer MVP.
Ooh, we'll come back to that in a sec. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Gary Trinder. I'm a solutions architect at CPS, and I'm Microsoft MVP for Office development, and I'm obviously the beard of Grey Hat Beard.
And the CLI PMP.
Oh, yeah,
CLI
for Microsoft 365 maintainer and PNP team member as well.
So yes, we have had accusations in the past of being a CPS podcast, but we can now officially say, as of today or as of tomorrow?
Officially as of today.
Fantastic.
We are definitely not a CPS podcast. We are a CPS and Microsoft podcast.
Community podcast. We are not sponsored by either. Before anyone starts, we're a community podcast, not sponsored. If anyone does want to sponsor, we'd like I've just bought a new Mac and I can help pay that off. But no, we're not planning on being sponsored or anything like that. So Al, what is it you're actually going there to do?
So I'm actually going to be working in the Microsoft Technology Centers. So really showcasing the latest Microsoft technology. Working.
This is like in the stores where you're kind of just selling the laptops and stuff, is it? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. It's a custom built location to really showcase the technology to clients and think strategically about how they can actually use it and how they can apply the technology.
I've got visions now of Al working like a PC world. They're like, do you want any help with that? Just following around the store.
You can keep those pictures. Yeah, no, that's
a nervous moment of like, I don't think that's what
I've signed up for that. No. So yes, but no, first day tomorrow. So actually going to go and meet the team and have a socially distanced lunch. So that'll be a novel experience for many different reasons, but it'll be an interesting day. And then I'll find out what I'm actually doing.
Fantastic.
But congratulations. I know I blurted out slightly where you were moving to a few people on a call the other day. So again, apologies for that one, but I think exciting times.
It is exciting. Yeah.
Just the one MVP on the show now. Outrageous. Right. Let's get on with the news in this part before we overrun too much. And there was a little bit of SharePoint and OneDrive sort of news came through. First one I love that came out in the pit stop that Microsoft often puts out on the SharePoint blog, the tech community, and kind of wedged in there, and sadly hasn't really got many pictures on it, was about the immersive reader coming to SharePoint pages and news posts. And I had to play around this on, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, I was doing some demos and showing it, and it's really nice. I mean, some of you may have seen the immersive reader that's there in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint as well, I think, isn't it? I think it's just the two Office ones.
Also in Edge. It's in Edge as well.
Yes, that's true. So to have it there directly within SharePoint, I feel that SharePoint, we've talked accessibility in SharePoint for many years and having that WCAG compliance that is there for the default SharePoint stuff, but to be able to start having more in there that can open up your content to more people, I think is great. And I know, Al, you've done a lot with that accessibility in the past.
Do you know what, when I first went in there and I saw this, I was like, wait a second, that's been there for years.
Yeah.
It took me some time to realize that actually I've been thinking about the browsers and Edge having the immersive reader in it, so you can use it, across the board as opposed to just being built into the SharePoint page. So it'd be interesting to see actually how many people use it within SharePoint as opposed to using it from the browser. But it's a fantastic tool. It's so powerful, and it's used for, whilst it is an accessibility tool, actually, if you're reading a large document, it just makes it so much easier on the eyes. It's just reduces the cognitive load when you're actually reading things. It can be so much better. I had a client who really liked it because she could ask it to play out loud. and just listen to a document rather than actually reading it. So there's so many uses for the immersive reader. It's a really excellent tool.
And with some of our docs, it's always useful if you can't sleep at night, play that. Yeah, a sleeping note.
I have read some of your docs, Kevin. I
Exactly.
would agree with that. Yeah.
What's that snoring noise there out there? Link, kind of related to that ish, in that it's to do with OneDrive. There was also the news that Microsoft Whiteboard, the data is moving to OneDrive for Business. I thought this was brilliant news. I think Whiteboard's a great tool, but you just lose your stuff. You've only got it related to you. You can share that, but it sits effectively under your ownership. This really opens things out. Admittedly, it's still moving to OneDrive, so it's not completely shared out, but I believe it is due to move to SharePoint and be able to save your whiteboards into SharePoint soon. I don't know if they said, but yeah, in future we will provide storage in SharePoint sites as well. I think that would be a much better place for it to be.
Yeah, this is a good move. I mean, we've seen this with Stream in the past, right, with the same issues where you get a service in Microsoft 365 and its data storage is, you know, almost sometimes unknown in some cases, and you've, you know, organizations who really want to use these new features but are being held back because, you know, regional requirements as well, you know, making sure that the data is stored within regions that they're operating in, and you know, by getting that into OneDrive and SharePoint that's already had that for years, and all the compliance features as well and the APIs that wrap around it, it just makes total sense. So it's good to see that, you know, they're taking things that way, you know, because it solves a hell of a lot of problems.
You're absolutely right. If it becomes a format, you know, that we store a document in and we can open it up and we can edit it, it means that we've got so much more power as to where we can store things, how we can share things.
I guess version control as well.
Yeah.
That could be quite useful. And it was interesting. I noticed on this that it says previously created boards will remain in Azure. So I guess they're just there as blob storage at the moment, or in some specifics. Interesting.
It must mean that they're changing the whole storage pattern.
Yeah, because
the whole process.
It's going to require OneDrive for Business. It says if you've not got it enabled, you won't be able to use it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
I think the other interesting one is that we'll be sharing more details on how to migrate your content, which suggests it won't be an automatic thing. You have to actively move things. So it's something to keep an eye out.
It's like going from classic pages to modern pages.
Oh gosh, I hope not. And I think back on the whiteboard side, Vesa Noppinen had a lovely post, which I've just stopped sharing. That was stupid. But had a lovely post around the Microsoft Whiteboard in Teams meetings has got a new look. So I haven't tried this out yet, actually. I've done Teams whiteboards a couple of times, but I haven't tried the new one out. Looks like nice new clean and tidy pictures to it. I'm hoping they've got more of the kind of card capabilities. From what I saw when I looked through this, it didn't seem to mention those. It talks about new options and colors and thicknesses on there, and a new text box, but not the kind of not Kanban, but the kind of ideas boards and things like that you can get in the desktop app. It doesn't look, from what I've seen, you've still got the post-it notes, but not the grouping of post-it notes, which I say is one of my favorite bits of functionality in Whiteboard. That's what makes a big difference to it, and that ability to kind of move post-its between blocks. I've used them for retrospectives in the past, which is really useful to do those remotely, but looks like that's not coming with Teams, which is or not yet anyway, which is a bit of a shame.
Maybe not yet. I think it'll be interesting to see whether it's performant as well. You know, with lots of people in a meeting, that was always a bit of a challenge at times, was how performant it was. But it's great to see it, you know, being developed and not just languishing there. It's because it is, as you say, a really useful tool to actually engage people in a meeting.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing, is you've got to kind of give people something to do during meetings, otherwise they drift off. If just listening to us, they drift off, don't you? Wake up if you're listening, so, especially if you're driving.
Gives them something to focus on as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh dear, you can tell it's Monday after a public holiday in the UK. And I do apologise to those on the video who are seeing a rather red rather than grey. Yes, it was slightly sunnier than I realised today, so I do notice every now and then I look down and give a bit of a glowing red blast to people, so I do apologise.
Always
Before I
that's,
went on too much,
traditional for a bank holiday, though, isn't it?
exactly.
You know, go out.
I had a
was
barbecue this
bit windy,
weekend.
sunburn.
Went to the beach, got sunburnt. Yeah.
If only there was a thing that you could put on your head. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, Gary. I'm sure there are certain things that you can put on your head that would.
Yeah, it's grey. It was a grey hat beard day. I couldn't put a hat on. That's Al's thing.
So it's Al's
I tried a
fault.
beard,
That's
and
fine.
yeah.
Absolutely, I'll take that. Yes, just because I've left, and now my fault is everything.
Exactly. Yeah, starting tomorrow. Gary, there was some good news around the SharePoint framework.
Yes. So we talked about this a few weeks back, where 1.12 was released and then was almost immediately unreleased as well, due to issues that people were finding when they were upgrading the projects. So this week, the actual release happened of 1.12. I know you've got the previous blog post showing at the moment. They released the 1.12.1, which is the release that should have been a couple of weeks ago, but there's been a change of direction here. So there has been a different approach to this release than there has been with previous releases, and this is something that Microsoft are going to be doing for the future. Basically, is that they're going to release public previews before it becomes generally available. So there's been a number of release candidates for 1.12.1, which has been published to the community and to ISVs, people who are building things on SharePoint framework, so that they can basically go and test and just make sure that everything works fine and give feedback as well. So there's a much more
when you say it's
approach.
Released to ISVs, it's released to anyone who wants it, but it means that ISVs can go on there before it's the live version and not suddenly have the updated version kick in automatically and break everything, as may have happened.
Yeah, and that's what's happened in the past, right? Okay, a new version of SharePoint framework comes along, everyone's in the same boat, it gets released, and quickly you want to make sure that one, you want to take advantage of the new capabilities, but two, you obviously want to make sure that everything still works fine. And I think it's this approach has been well received. It's a very different approach, a very open approach from Microsoft to say, here we've got the latest release, but we want to give it to you before we send it out to everyone else. So at least you've got an opportunity to give feedback or highlight the issues that you may have with your product or a web part that you're building in your organization, that you can then publicly respond to Microsoft as well, or through GitHub, through the issues lists. They can be worked on, and then there's the confidence of knowing that when the version is released generally available, that your stuff is working fine. So kind of a recap on that release. It was kind of a major milestone, really, because Gulp versions have been increased to V4. Node version, I think it actually has jumped from 12 originally up to 14. So
it wasn't massive functionality, but a really important release. I think
there was a few things as Teams meeting support in there as well. So now we're starting to see apps appear in Teams meetings as well. So being able to add SharePoint framework based apps into your meetings as well. That's I think a big feature that we're going to start seeing. And obviously then getting us on the path for supporting Viva connections as well, which is obviously coming. So there was a lot of maintenance updates, which are definitely well received, and in some cases people say probably overdue, but it's here, which is great. But
some people, Gary, not you, some people.
Andrew,
okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Do you know, with this kind of new approach, is this going to be releasing things earlier as well, do you think, or have they not really said?
Potentially, yeah. There's a number of public previews that are happening now across the board, which is previously it hasn't been the case. So I guess it's just be aware that there are public previews that you can get access to. Check out the docs, and I'm sure there'll be a form there that you can request that access. That you don't just have to wait for the releases. You can you can get involved and get that exposure to new features and new capabilities early.
So in terms of people getting access, you need to request it. It's not like an open beta that anyone can just, it's open to everyone, but you have to kind of request it rather than it's just there.
Well, for the SharePoint framework public previews, you can. They are being released publicly. They're public previews, so they are on NPM. For other things,
they are there. Lovely. Yeah.
For other things, they are more private previews, which you can request to.
On that one. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good to see that there's that more openness, and I think it has triggered some change, which is nice. And I think Gary, you were saying at the beginning, it's good to see from that bad release, which I think did leave a bit of a sour taste in some mouths. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's gone the other way of bringing out a benefit and being able to give that earlier access to those who want it. And the fact that the issues that were found with 1.12 were found so quickly says that people are jumping on this really quickly and moving thing, which I think this is why the community is important, because they will pick up on these things.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? They've obviously dropped a bit of a clanger, but then responded in the right way and learnt from it and improved the processes, which is essentially setting an example that every organisation should be aspiring to say, actually, look, we all make mistakes, but we can learn from them and minimise the damage.
Yeah, and talking about community, so CLI for Microsoft 365, we've got the SharePoint framework project upgrade command that people use that a lot, and we've added support for the new public previews as well. So if you want to upgrade to one of those public previews, you can use the tool. So we released 3.9, which is this month's release, and in there, we've got the support for the beta versions, the public previews, as well as all the major releases as well. So we know that people are going to want to try things out, and the tools are there to make that as simple as possible as well.
So, and you've made it very, very clear with the -- preview, you've got to actively request the preview version rather than it's the default latest and things on there, which is really nice.
You will basically get the latest preview version. So we're taking that approach that it's always going to be the latest. I think there was five releases of 1.12. Yeah, there's quite a number of them. So you were able to go through the upgrade process for that quite.
So that's definitely suggesting that they're releasing more and things like that, unless things kept going wrong. And the kind of stupid thing I do of like quick roll something else, like quick roll another one out, which is really bad practice. Don't be like me in that case. That sounds nice. I'm also getting distracted by your CLI support for creating Azure AD applications from a manifest. I like the idea of that.
Yeah, so that is if you're creating app registrations, you go into the Azure portal, click around, be nice and friendly kind of menus. It generates a manifest file, which you can view. So we've added a command in there that you can just take a copy of that manifest and then just basically add that into the one of the commands that we've created. So if you store that in your source code, you can then just say, to the developers, use this command and use this manifest, and it will create the app registration for you. So we're doing a number of updates in the CLI to help you if you're a Microsoft 365 developer and you're doing things in Azure that you may be not comfortable with. Is trying to make that authentication piece as simple as possible as well. We've actually got a few commands in there trying to create very simple SharePoint framework apps and Teams apps as well, to just kind of reduce the number of manual steps that you need to perform.
That's nice. And I think the app registrations has been one of the biggest manual steps you get with a lot of open source projects. So
definitely,
really like that. Nice. So moving off SharePoint and SharePoint framework and onto something that's not at all about SharePoint, Viva. So I noticed the Viva Learning public preview was announced. Apologies if you're listening to this and that's news to you and think, oh, fantastic, I want to jump on board with that, because they had so many requests for it. They've actually closed the sign up. I'm guessing temporarily until they sort of open things up a bit more, but a lot of demand, and I think it shows that there really is a lot of excitement about Viva. If you look at the kind of conferences we had last week, the Microsoft 365 virtual marathon, there was a whole load of Viva presentations there, and lots of people coming to. I know Al, you spoke on Viva Insights and had a good number there. I was talking more about Viva Topics, had a decent number there as well, and I think there is interest in this.
I think there's a massive amount of interest, and I think we'll see when we talk about events that we're doing coming up. Viva is everywhere, but it's surprising that they asked for people to sign up for this and then had to close it so fast. It's like they weren't expecting quite as much interest as been generated, which I find intriguing because everybody wants to know what it is. Everybody it's really hard, to actually talk about it and go, and this is what we don't know. There's some idea, but everybody wants to get their hands on it and play with it and see what it's all about.
And I think they've got a tricky tightrope, because I think they want to keep this interest going, but they've also got to provide the functionality. And I think we've seen in some cases when they've done this early release, people have gone, well, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it doesn't do that. Well, yeah, it doesn't, because it's relatively early. And I think Viva Learning, it's certainly the one we've seen least about. Viva Topics has come from Cortex. There's been lots of things about that, and people have known about that for a while. We know that Viva Insights, a lot of that is workplace analytics, which has been out there for a while. Viva Connections, there's been an awful lot out there. It's not just SharePoint, I promise, but it's the fundamental part of it. Whereas Viva Learning, I think, is something completely new. I don't think it's been seen anywhere. And
I think the biggest challenge with Viva Learning is it depends on integration, whereas the others don't depend on quite such complex underpinnings to make it work. So, whilst you do have various moving parts, Viva Learning inevitably, what about this particular learning system or that particular learning system? I know we don't support that yet. That's going to be the biggest challenge. And as you say,
and I think
people not actually seeing what they expect to see or being underwhelmed. We know from change and adoption, that's the worst thing you can possibly do, is to underwhelm people, because it's going to leave a sour taste, and people are just going to go, well, actually, I saw it 6 months ago, it wasn't all that, even if it's really coming along quickly. So as you say, it is a tightrope at this stage.
And I think at the same time, with Cortex, if you spend too long before you start releasing things out to people, the interest drops off as well. So it's just keeping things going on there. But I'd say I'm looking forward to this. I think that ability to pull from all the different systems and be able to have your kind of single place to go to and saying, here's the stuff I need to do, here's the stuff I want to do. Would love it, really. Really looking forward to it.
I think it'll be a game changer.
So and that was nice. And there was also some updates on Viva Insights. So I always find Viva Insights a bit of a funny one, because there's workplace analytics is such a big part to it, and there's a whole load involved within that. But there's quite a few other things that you kind of get for free and included with, not for free, but included with your license, but maybe not enough to get excited about on their own. It's another tightrope between the two. But I know Visa Noppanen, a good friend Vesku, did a lovely blog post talking about what you get on there, and there's things like how you're feeling, which I think is a nice one. I know we had, in fact, a year ago today or yesterday was the Microsoft Business Application Summit hackathon last year, and one of the things we did as part of that was to have this how are you feeling, and we tracked it between us as we were doing the hackathon and stuff on there. So they've brought that into the Viva Insights, that ability to send praise to your colleagues, which is in no way at all like Yammer, and it is not just like that. But having said it's not like Yammer, I was trying it out on Friday. It's quite nice that you can send praise to your colleagues, either to a team, publicly say great work, or you can actually do it one-to-one, which is quite nice. Send that nice picture on there. Some people will react. I always think of Football Manager. Some people will react to that public praise, some to that private praise. Treat people differently, and it's modern life is just like Football Manager.
I think you've got to remember that the whole rationale for this is different from the praise on Yammer, which is just public praise. That's reward. This is well-being that they're focusing on. So it's staying engaged, it's staying in contact with your team and your peers, and making people feel appreciated, which I think is it's a fundamentally different purpose, which is why I looked at this and it's like, okay, so you can schedule when to praise. Oh great, I can engage. It's reminding me to stay engaged with people.
I was going to say, you're scheduling when to remind yourself to praise.
Yes.
Not you don't schedule a praise.
Not scheduling.
Yeah, that would
and
be
I think
slightly.
all of the Viva Insights elements that they launched are all around that well-being piece, and I think it's really important to remember that's the purpose for this. This whole module is set up to use various different data sources, but to really promote us being productive. So it's got the blocking out the focus time is really easy in there. You're scheduling things like your virtual commutes to tie off the day. It ties into productivity and ways of working, and then you've got the well-being all mixed in as one, which I think actually sits really comfortably together.
Yeah, and I think it's good that focus time, because that's been in the kind of Cortana and the emails, but it's always a bit of a pain to go and find it, go back and find your emails. You've now got a single place, and I think that's what Viva is. It's that single hub to go back to that's all there in Teams and easy to do.
It will be interesting to see how fast it develops and how fast all of the other, as you say, the My Analytics, the workplace analytics, how fast all of that stuff will actually come into it, because it's starting to look like a nice portal that people can actually see a lot of information in.
And it's, again, a tightrope of not putting too much in there that it just becomes bloated like everything else as well.
Yeah, and managing those expectations. There's a breathing exercise in there, which, if you think about it, that could be really fandangled and fancy, but actually it's the most simple thing in the world. And I can see a lot of people kind of going, well, what's the point in that? And that's because they haven't actually tried it.
And I know we were talking about your now former colleague before this, but he gave a demo of that, and it was very funny, kind of mid-passionate, powerful demo, to kind of take a pause and breathe. And you could see a few people's reactions like, okay, we can carry on now. This is lovely. But, it's going to be interesting how people demo that.
Yeah, I mean, I demoed this week in one of my sessions on Viva, and there are certain things that you demo and there are certain things that you don't. A minute of breathing is probably not something to roll into a live demo.
My numbers appear to have dropped. How strange.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
The only thing about I was going to say about the taking a moment to breathe is, if you've got an Apple Watch, how many times I get pinged throughout the whole day, oh, you should stand up, and you look at it and go, yeah, whatever. And you do, oh, you should breathe. Yeah, okay, well, maybe.
Do some stretches, do whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes more of an annoyance. Yeah, you just block it out more than anything else. Whereas actually, there are some good things about it, but it's the way that those notifications delivered, right?
But I think this is where it all comes back to that ways of working habits, how to build those right habits to actually benefit from this. The technology on its own, just reminding you to do breathing exercises. As you say, pretty much everybody has a smartwatch that's going to do that. Whether you actually sit there and follow its instructions, or whether you actually just get up and, take the opportunity to have a wander downstairs and say hello to the rest of the family and then wander back again. It's all habit and ways of working.
Oh yeah, there's other people in the house.
Yeah. Just to remind you, I'm still here.
Moving on to one of the other pillars, it's a lovely article about Alexandria and Microsoft Viva topics, and it's really the background and the background data of and science, I guess, certainly computer science, of how they're taking and querying all that content across SharePoint, Teams, etc., and creating those topics that come out, those recommendations. And it goes into detail. It's a research project. And pulls on a lot of the detail. So yeah, if you like the interest and like going into the detail of how things work, I'm not going to share it too much, but really good article, and really enjoyed having a good read through that.
You can really geek out on that article. That article is such a good article when you read it and you're like, okay, yeah, there's so much science in there that's really not stuff that most normal people know about.
Which is why I was just about to read something, and I really like this bit, but I'm going to pause. And those who are interested, drop me a note. Love to have a good chat about it, but probably not right now on the show. Although we were talking at the beginning of maybe kind of getting someone to talk about machine learning and especially about ethics and things in a future show. So there's definitely interesting topics around that, but this is definitely one for the nerdier among you, which is a core part of our audience. So hello if you're listening. On the Viva topics, a kind of bit of a hidden one this. Now, I'm going to try not to butcher his name too much, but Steve Nguyen, sorry, don't know how, I think that's how you say the name. I really should know that. But he talked about a little teaser, was applying something from Adam Harmut's around Viva topics, and a teaser on how they're going to integrate the Yammer and Viva topics. So you can see here where you've got your question that's come from Yammer, and you've got what was previously the hashtag is now going to be linked to topics. So you can be able to hover those and get your topics card, including with the top questions and answers. So I think people suspected that was going to be the case, but it's certainly is being highlighted and effectively confirmed. No timelines or anything like that, but I think that integration with Yammer, someone who'll be nameless unless they want to say out now, was kind of going, yeah, well, there's finally a reason to use Yammer. But I think, joking aside, I think it is slightly. I think that ability to put those questions and answers, have that best response, has been really good within Yammer, and to then be able to tie that back to topics and surface that is that right knowledge, the right people at the right time, and I think this just helps get that out there. Really.
I think Yammer's always had its place, but there's always been a lot of naysayers and a lot of doubters. And
Gary,
I think,
sorry,
I think
I like Yammer. I actually do like Yammer. Yeah,
I think there'll always be that discussion. What do I use when, and how do I use it? And I think Yammer's started to finally really shape where it fits in context with all the other forms of communication that are available. And this just adds to that. It's adding to that very specific use case that will support the topics as well, wherever they're showing up.
Yeah, I quite like the bit, I think on that screenshot where it's showing in the, I guess, the topics card, and there's the bit that says there's so many questions and answers about this topic as well. So going the other way, I think that works quite nice, because that's how you're, organically building up the knowledge in the organization, right? Of asking questions and then getting answers. And it's always been the issue of you've got really good knowledge stored away in those answers, and it's how do you pull that out and into a page where you don't have to sift through 10 answers. You can have it kind of collated or aggregated on a page, like a topic. That I can see as real big benefit, and I think that's what they're really aiming for. Obviously we'll see how that kind of goes. There's going to be a lot of curation needed, I think, with getting the the topics and the hashtags together from the Yammer side, but it is nice that I think you can see how they're thinking about pulling that information from Yammer.
It's interesting to say that, because Chris O'Brien, I don't know if you can see on the screen there, but he said, thanks for sharing. Will this be enabled by the Yammer topic matching the name of the Viva topic, or is a more explicit link needed to be provided? And Steve's replied, not depicted in the screenshot, but when you add a topic in Yammer, we plan to provide a type head drop down that is powered by Viva topics. So that those hashtags will automatically, what I take from that is that they will become the topics as well. I guess there may be, if you have a lot of hashtags already, that there may not be the link there. There may be something that needs to be migrated. But
I mean, when you think about it, if you're already an organization that's using Yammer effectively and you already have those hashtags, they're perfect to start off as topics anyway. So it's like looking at a folder structure and go, that's where you start your metadata discussion.
Yeah,
your hashtags in Yammer could be your start of your topics and the groupings that you're actually looking to build.
And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the SharePoint managed metadata and whether there's something that links that together as well, because I think that's, again, it's those metadata topics, hashtags, keywords all start to come together, and whether there's going to be it feels like topic can be the unified one that brings all this together, but
another unified service.
Yeah, one topic to rule them all.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, much as I will happily talk about Viva for hours, we should probably move on to one last topic, just a small little one at the moment. But Jeff Teeper kind of very casually announced that Teams has now hit 145 million daily active users. And I think last time they announced the numbers, was it 115? I think at the end of, was it October last year, something like that.
That's right.
And I think we on the show we talked about that and said, post-pandemic, we thought it was going to be post-pandemic then, those naive days. But will we see these numbers tail off? And I think people are settling down, and people are certainly in the UK going back to the offices. In the US, Microsoft and others are starting to move back to the office, and that number's still going up. And I think that's quite impressive. They're obviously managing to keep that going and still seeing a pretty hefty increase in that. So again, as the year goes on and we may eventually move back to something vaguely resembling normality, whether we still see that go up as much, but it's looking pretty positive from their side.
Well, we've still got to remember that Skype for Business is still around. It's not gone yet. There's still a lot of organisations who are still moving to Teams, before the end of July deadline. So, it doesn't surprise me that it's still, increasing at pace as well. Obviously, there'll be new organisations moving into Teams, but there's a lot still on, let's say, the legacy communications tools that are needing to move across. Classic.
I think you're right.
I was thinking that's controversial, but no, I think you probably can call Skype for Business a legacy one now.
It may have accelerated the adoption, but the way that we're going to be working, I don't think we're going to be back to where we were, a year ago. We're still going to have a lot more remote, a lot more distributed working, a lot more diverse ways of working within single organisations. So I think there's still a lot of scope for growth. And, as we've been talking, there's still so much more that's going to come into Teams. All of the Viva stuff is going to come into Teams. A lot of organisations don't use Teams to its full extent. So it'll be interesting to see how those numbers change as organisations who have the licenses start to realise more benefits from it, as they start to roll other services and features into it as well.
So as it becomes less about the calling and meetings, and not necessarily less about that, but also then including the collaboration and the other elements, meeting apps, things
also,
like that.
Some organisations have gone, okay, well, we've got SharePoint, we want to use Teams to collaborate. Others have said, well, we've got UC, we need to bring all of that. Others have Skype. So they're going to be saying, well, we've been using Skype, we need to use it for that. When you bring all of those together and then layer on top Viva, this, and all of the other third-party applications. I mean, there's so much potential that's, still there to be realised. Lots for us still to do.
And as Jeremy Fake said, 145 million daily active users. That's about 130 million. Sorry, you're on mute a day. That's quite a bit.
We need some AI just to analyse that to see how many times that's said. That would be quite amusing to see, wouldn't it?
It's going to be a way higher number, right? Because everyone does that in every meeting that they're in.
Yeah, maybe
times. Yeah,
automate the transcript of all the meetings and do some gamification about how many meetings have that you're on mute.
Yeah,
you could get a badge, couldn't you?
You could
get a badge. Yeah. You're the first person to try and talk when you're muted.
First person this week
to be
muted
without anyone saying you're on mute during a meeting. Now that would be a badge.
You're on a 30-day streak of not being muted in a meeting.
No, there's an achievement.
Absolutely, we could all aspire to that, couldn't we?
I think that was the end of the main news articles. But talking to Jeremy Fake, some of the ego posters I put on there and things we've been doing. Gary, you were actually on the M365 Dev podcast. Was it last week? Last week,
yes. Yeah, I was asked to come and talk about how we're using containers Docker containers for the for CLI for Microsoft 365. So yeah, I've been doing quite a bit of work with containers in the last few months of how we've rolled the CLI into a Docker image. So everything's kind of you can install the CLI with all of the dependencies on your machine, which makes it really nice and easy to run and test out different versions. But also talked about from the development side as well. So we've used Visual Studio Code remote development containers, which is based on Docker to build kind of like a standardized development environment, which we bundle with the project. So if you're a new developer and you come along to the project, you clone the project, Visual Studio Code will go, ooh, we've got a development container in here. Do you want me to run it for you? And you run it, and it basically gets all the dependencies that you need on your machine to.
I'm going to stop you there because I think really do listen to the podcast because it covers. Garrett, I thought covered these things really well, and just as an intro, if you're wondering what Docker is, how it can help you do things, I really highly recommend it. I've listened to it and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's super powerful stuff, and that's why I keep talking about it. And when I should shut up, and you should listen to it instead.
But no, really, really good one. I think even Paul was convinced. So I
think so as well. Yeah,
but
no, it's really great. Yeah.
The other one I'm going to mention, I'll put in the show notes. But Mark, another name I don't know. I think it's Duika. So you always read these names and never know how to actually say it. A Start initiative, I think Louise Fries is certainly supporting it as well, about learning pixel art. So if you've seen any of those 8-bit pictures around, they're doing a competition. It's not even a competition, a challenge every week to kind of go and create a bit of pixel art on there. So do have a look at that. I thought it was a nice little bit of fun that distracted me, and I even turned it into a bit of a game as well. Which entirely ruined what I was planning to do that weekend, but was great fun as well. So definitely worth it. Coming up with events, we've got Teams Nation on the where's my notes? 12th of May. Thank you very much. Just bringing that up on there. So I think they've got an awful lot of speakers and an awful lot of very good speakers as well.
100 odd speakers, 11 tracks, and almost 3,000 registrations.
Yeah, wow. Getting very close. And I know Vescu's been doing some brilliant work with the videos, which
Vescu's been getting very into doing videos. I think he's got a new career as a video editor.
Absolutely. So they're looking nice. And I think, Al, you're helping moderate. Is it the security and compliance track?
Which one am I doing? No, I'm doing productivity for this one.
Sorry. Should have asked you that beforehand.
Yeah.
Because I think, Peter's doing security and compliance.
Peter's doing security
and productivity.
Productivity, yeah. So, and there's some great speakers, a lot of Viva stuff in there. So I'm doing Viva Insights again, but we've got, lots of Viva stuff across the board. But yeah, some really, really good keynotes. There's even a
I've got Jeff, haven't they? Jeff Teeper, Caruana.
Yep. Lots of good speakers, lots of keynotes. Yeah. Absolutely no reason not to sign up.
Absolutely. It's free.
Free day of training.
Also, Al, just after that, you've got a busy few days starting your new job.
Yeah, yes.
SPS Philly.
Yep.
I assume it is Philadelphia.
It is Philadelphia. I'm assuming that's a picture of Philadelphia. So again, that's Viva Insights. So that'll be Philly time, either on the 14th or 15th of May. So more free training. So
is that a late one for you then?
Potentially. Yeah.
Still waiting to hear. Okay.
Still waiting to hear exactly what time it is, but that should be another good one. 2 days of sessions.
And then you've written here 19th of May, the next Microsoft 365 security and compliance user group.
Yep.
I had 18th written down, but I had Wednesday the 18th, so I had better double check that one. Make sure I've got my calendar correctly. It's getting me nervous now because you've got one good speaker and one very dodgy one. That's
it's definitely the 19th of May.
Yeah. I just look at it, go, why did I write down 18th? That's worrying. But yeah, I'm going to be
Maybe that's
talking
the time,
about
1800.
yeah, absolutely did. Maybe that's what's lodged in my brain on that. But I'm going to be talking about automating compliance labeling with SharePoint syntax. So using AI to get your stuff pulling out from the actual contents itself and being able to structure there. So looking forward to that. And you've got Patrick Van Bemmelen talk about Office message encryption, security send email via Microsoft 365. He says Office 365, but I do try and be good to Microsoft and say Microsoft 365 there.
Exchange
So,
online.
yeah, there we go. And then we've got 29th of May, SharePoint Saturday, Cologne. I kind of keep thinking SharePoint Saturday's gone away and was replaced by Collab Days, but no, it's still going, isn't it?
It's still going.
A pair of them. So yeah, over in Cologne, and Al, you're talking again on Viva Insights.
Viva Insights, yeah. Viva Insights. I'm hoping they're going to keep pushing more things out. So it's it's an evolving session.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully with a little bit more warning than you got last time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
you're
I'll
speaking
be
at that one as well.
Yeah, so I've got Viva topics on that one and the joys of knowledge management. So I'll be putting together some stuff for that. And then we've got September. We have Comsverse. I think Al, you'll be speaking in person, in like real life.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Exactly. I think Mark has many more things crossed than that it will be happening there, but that should be a great event. And a reminder, they have as part of Comsverse the Community Awards, which I'm trying to get there, the Tech Community Awards. And they do have a podcast awards. We may have mentioned this before, but we're shameless. We're going to bring it up again because they have the best community podcast, and we have been nominated, one of 4 nominated for that one. And if you fancy, it's really easy. You go to this site, click on any one of the podcasts, anyone like the one I've clicked on there, and click on place my vote. I have already voted, which is why I'm not clicking it again.
You don't click on any one of them. You click on Grey Hat Beard.
Well, we can't be too biased, but yeah, if you listen to us, hope you like us, and then do give us a vote on there. And last but by no means least, the South Coast Summit is ever approaching. 16th of October. I think we're all helping with the tracks, various tracks on that one, and I think we're all helping on the pre-conference workshops, which are happening for there. So we're all running various things at those, which I think will get announced any day now, isn't it? Where is it? Or beginning of June?
Next week.
Next week?
No, couple of weeks. I
think it's a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we won't say which workshops, but there's going to be some great workshops available for the Friday, and it's going to be so many good sessions that are going to take place on the actual day itself. And again, it's going to be in person, an amazing venue at the Aegeus Bowl down in Southampton, which I've been to, and is absolutely beautiful. So hopefully a nice sunny October day, and we'll be looking forward to seeing a bit of that. Otherwise, I think that's about it. I think we've been rabbiting on enough. I think Al's got something to go and prepare for tomorrow.
Yeah, I might just need to, I don't know, iron a shirt maybe, as I'm actually going to go out in person,
I'm actually in the office tomorrow, so I'm going to be seeing like real life people, which is slightly terrifying. I was just looking down at my bag and thinking, yeah, I need to sort that out a little bit.
Yeah, power adapters, all of that good stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
Remembering that you can't mute people, in real life.
You can't roll your eyes at people face to face; they can see you. So.
You can't turn your camera off.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a strange experience.
Listening, the person who's going to be seeing there might be listening to this on the car going up there. So if you are, just let me know when I see you tomorrow. But otherwise, to everyone else, we'll stop the personal chat. This is part 1. We will have part 2 next week with a topic we'll discuss, but we're keeping that as a surprise to everyone, including us. Otherwise, thank you very much. I've been Gray.
I've been Hat.
I've been Beard.
Have a lovely week and speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.